kick off with the ad insights, and I'm going to ask. Well, obviously, this is the audience, the ad insight track. We are. Okay, so we have here. We're delighted that we've got Kim from Digital Turbine is going to come and talk to us about WTF is the AQI Ad Quality Index. Kim, come on up and tell us all about that.
Okay. Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kim. I am a team lead at Digital Turbine in the account management team, covering all things monetization. So I deal with our offer wall products, our mediation, and everything through our exchange. When people ask me what I do for a living, especially my parents, I tend to ask them a question back. Mostly, do you play mobile games? I think it's a bit easier to explain to people what we do in ad tech and our industry if they can relate to it a bit more. And I mean, even my mum likes to play the odd word game. So, you know, I'll ask them, do you play any mobile games? The answer is invariably yes, which is great. I'll explain about what we do, what our industry is about. And either I've explained it absolutely terribly, but their main takeaway is, oh, so you're responsible for all those annoying ads. I'm sure we can all relate. And this is why it's so important for our users to value the quality of ads, to have a good experience. And today we'll talk about how to measure this quality, as well as how you can optimize and control ads and retain your acquired users. Firstly, let's look into why ad quality matters and why it's important to have visibility into what is being shown to your users. Well, the answer is actually quite logical, because the quality of what is shown impacts your user's experience. It's connected to the revenue loss or the revenue growth of your app. If we look at the ripple effect of your players' interactions with ads in your game, there are essentially two ways it can unfold. Firstly, when seeing an ad that triggers a negative experience, existing users become frustrated by the quality of either the content itself or the experience that they've gone through. And they have the potential to leave a bad app review. Not only have you lost this player, but if a bad review has been left, then it will affect your ability to gain new users who won't install your game because of the bad ad reviews that they've seen. The reviews and ratings essentially reflect on the quality of your product and the user experience. But on the other hand, and going now to the second ripple effect, with a positive user sentiment about ads they've seen and the quality of their experience, you can keep these users engaged. You can keep them monetized. You, as the developer, continue to make revenue from these users. Your store rating stays high, and it's easier to do user acquisition because you've got everything going for you. So now we've established why ad quality matters, let's look into what it actually is. And to this, there are essentially two components that make up ad quality. Firstly, the demand diversity. Am I showing a variety of gaming genres? Am I showing brand and lifestyle apps? For me, that's really interesting because the majority of publishers don't actually know their splits between what percentage of their demand is branding and what percentage of their demand is performance or gaming. The main question here should be, do I have the right balance, or is my demand skewed? This, combined with the user ad experience, is what makes up the ad quality. Is the content I'm showing relevant to my users? Am I spending too much time on loading ads with poor quality and rendering capabilities? What the users are exposed to impacts their experience. Now, I couldn't talk about quality in this presentation without bringing up the impact of the content itself. What are advertisers showing in our games? Misleading ads have been an issue for quite some time in our industry. While it might drive initial installs, what we do find is once users start to play a new game that they've installed from a misleading ad, it leaves them quite disappointed. They're not seeing what they expected from the ad. Then we have the inappropriate content, which is where we must highlight the recent trend of sexist and shocking creatives being used, which I'm sure you all know the exact examples to which I'm referring to here. And while in the first example of misleading ads, advertisers are going to lose your trust, inappropriate content may also cause you to lose users. Ads and the game users play are perceived as exactly the same thing. We can safely say such content helps neither the advertisers nor the publishers. As an industry, we have to uphold the highest possible standards for creatives so that such inappropriate content becomes a thing of the past. We've got more privacy-related laws coming into effect. We've got platform changes coming into effect. All this creative content is becoming key to attracting users and getting that install. And that's exactly where balancing the creatives, like we spoke about in the previous slide, between those different demand types becomes really key to holding your users' attention and keeping those users happy. So what makes a good ad experience? For performance gaming advertisers, their key intent is to get an install. This is where playable ads come in handy. They can show a snippet of your game. You can allow the users to interact with what they can expect from installing your app. But it can also contribute to longer loading times and rendering times. We've also started to see performance advertisers get quite aggressive and manipulative with increasing clicks and CTRs, or messing around with the X buttons and auto-directing users to app stores, practically forcing users to install a game. And you're going to have to be really quick to see this next transition, but let's see if you can find the X button. And when users are struggling to find this X button, or they're having to look everywhere, or they're just having a really bad experience and multiple hoops to jump through in order to install your game, most are just going to exit. That's it. You've lost them. From the UA perspective, if you've been causing users to leave your game, you're going to risk them seeing the bad ad reviews in the App Store. It's going to showcase user frustration with ads and the entire experience. So again, you've lost your potential users and their potential revenue. Branding end cards, on the other hand, tend to be less manipulative, and the flow is a better ad experience. These advertisers are after exposure, they're after viewability, and generally tend to have a clean user experience. This is when rendering and load time are reliant on publishers to update their SDKs, ensure that they're fixing the latest bug fixes in any crashes that are going on, and to ensure that they're up to date, to ensure that there are seamless transitions with ads. Having a poor ad experience does affect both sides of growth. On the monetization side, players close the game, you have low retention, and there's generally low LTV. On the UA side, or even organically to some extent, when users leave bad ad reviews, not just on the app stores, but now on the likes of TikTok, on Facebook, this is going to prevent you from gaining new users. You've invested all this time, effort, money, energy into creating an engaging game, only to be let down by poor ad experience and ultimately lose revenue. So now we know the problems and solutions of how to improve ad quality, but how do we measure it? This is the practical part where publishers can measure how many users they've lost. Of course, there are plenty of ways to measure this. However, when we look into ad quality, we want to make it as streamlined as possible. And that's why we've narrowed down an index to make this the ad quality index. Let's take users who have seen an ad and subtract the users who have left the game either during or right after an ad has been served, i.e. these users who have quit the game either right there and then or left the app immediately after an ad has been served to them. If we divide this by the original number, i.e. the original number of users who saw the ad, then we come up with some sort of benchmark in the form of an index. Calculating the ad quality index allows publishers to calculate what happens to their users and the impact ads have had on the user experience. Let's look at an example. So if we have 1 million unique users who saw an ad, and almost a third of them left the game after viewing or interacting with an ad, these users didn't leave because they lost interest in your game. They churned because of a factor that has nothing to do with your actual product. An index calculation such as this can help mitigate this factor. You can calculate this for each of your partners to help you understand the user's ad experience with each of your partners. Now let's be honest. Getting to an index of 1 it would be lovely and nice, but it is also going to be impossible. You're bound to lose users across the way in some form or another. But what we want to achieve is to get and aspire to as close to that 1, that perfect 1, as possible. Your partners are ultimately here to grow your app revenue. They're not here to hinder it. So let's say you've calculated the index across 3 of your monetization partners. It's super clear here that monetization partner B has a very low ad quality index, or AQI, and has the opportunity to improve. Their index is low. After seeing their ads, users are more likely to leave your game. Just to be clear here, we're not saying don't work with monetization partner B. Don't abandon them. Absolutely on the contrary. You're requiring a service of monetization partner B. And what you should be getting is the best quality for that service. They need to be held accountable for this. Work with this partner to understand what their ad quality is like. Essentially everything we've just covered in the previous few slides all coming together. What is this partner's ad rendering capabilities? Are they messing my users around with the X button? Are they limited in terms of demand? Work with this partner B to understand, to educate, to fix the problem, and to bring that ad quality index a lot higher and more in line with your other partners. So how can I evaluate this ad quality? In terms of revenue, how much has my game lost? Our approach is to look at a cohorted ARPDAU. If we look at a monthly ARPDAU of users and subtract the ARPDAU of the same group of users in the following month or whatever time frame you're specifically looking into and would like to analyze, then as a percentage, we get the revenue churn. Using a cohort of the same users means that data is not corrupted by any other user behavior. For example, if you gain new users in the following month. Again, looking at an example, if you had an ARPDAU of 55 cents last month, and 25 cents is the current ARPDAU for the same cohort, then in this scenario, you churned out 54% in revenue from that cohort of users. By losing these users, what kind of LTV could I have had? How much longer could their session time have been? How much longer could I have kept monetizing these users? Of course, there are other reasons as to why users may have left, but if you take a specific network that has a low AQI, ad quality index, then you can quantitatively measure the impact of that network partner not serving the best quality of ads and check their revenue churn. What can you do based on this ad quality analysis? Maybe you have some networks that have a low AQI. These partners are responsible for you losing revenue. Yes, they may have high fills, great eCPMs, you have an amazing working relationship with them, but ultimately they're causing you to lose revenue and churn your users. We understand that developers have to answer to investors, and given the current economic climate, what you think might be the right thing to do is just keep filling that inventory no matter what. They, and you, might think that there's not a direct correlation between making money and bad ad quality. But if the last example is anything to go by, you could be churning out and losing 54% of revenue and leaving that on the table. So we encourage you to think about your best ad practices. Use the index, use the revenue churn calculation, and really try to understand what experiences your users are having. On the monetization side, prioritize your monetization partners according to the quality of ads they serve. Diversify your ads, including high-quality brand demand for better user experience. This could also include looking at other formats like in-game that are very popular for having branding campaigns, or offer wall to reward your loyal users and retain them for much longer. On the user acquisition side, you can explore new channels, again with offer wall, or even with preloads that provide native and user-friendly app discovery experiences. And finally, making sure that your ads are rendering properly with all growth formats across all platforms. Using tools your partners provide allow you to follow your user journey. For example, at Digital Turbine, we have developed an ad experience tool to monitor the last creatives your users saw before they left the game or weren't seen again. Did this user leave because they were bored? Or did they leave because of the ad that was served to them? These tools that exist, not just at Digital Turbine, but throughout the industry, help you to track down whether a user saw a playable ad, or there was a network frustrating the user by showing an ad where they had to click the X button multiple times. All of these reasons make it so important for you to hold your partners accountable on both sides of the spectrum. Find unbiased partners who deliver engaging ad experiences to help you grow a high-quality user base in order to retain your users and convert that to revenue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this is a great thing. One of the things that I've noticed, in particularly post-pandemic, particularly post-IDFA, is hiding the X button, moving the position where you're supposed to close the ad just to keep people on. I actually think it's counterproductive because it may not show up in the ad company's data that it's a problem, but when it starts affecting my long-term lifetime value, it really is a problem. And one of the things, when I was a Unity evangelist, one of the things we learned a lot about was thinking about the user journey. So the ad was a method to encourage people to foreshadow the value they would get through purchases if it was designed properly. And it was so rare for that. So I think this kind of stuff is so important to really understand not only what your user experience is, but your relationship with your suppliers and also your sources.
Yes.
So I think it's super important.
And taking advantage, of the tools that they have and monitoring this, because a lot of networks out there have all this data, and it's up to publishers and advertisers to some extent to really take hold of that data, own it, and utilize it to retain their users.
And I think that's why it's so important to track not just your attribution data, but also to tie that back into game flow. I mean, one of the things that we spend a lot of time thinking about as a publisher is, how do I make sure my user experience is going to retain that player as long as possible? How are we going to create sure we maintain the emotional journey of that player? And if we see them frustrated, as you've described, what happens? They leave.
They leave.
And they don't come back. And we've just lost all that revenue, and they've lost all that gameplay they wanted.
Exactly.
Sorry, just quick opportunity for a question if anyone has one. Do we have a question? On that note, I'm going to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.